3 bone-chilling midnight confessions that haunt you forever. Too real to ignore. The clock struck 3 as the wind howled through the abandoned town of Oak Grove, an eerie embrace calling out to anyone who dared listen. Under the silver glow of a waning moon, shadows danced across the cracked sidewalks, where a history of whispered secrets seemed to shiver in the cold night air. This was a place marked by tales of sorrow and spine-tingling mystery, waiting to reveal itself in the deepest hour of darkness. As Sarah stepped outside, her heart raced. She felt it, the palpable weight of dread hanging heavy in the air. This town was infamous for its midnight confessions, murmurings that crawled into the minds of those who dared to breathe them. 3 such confessions were said to linger, lost in the shimmering fog of night. Each would tap into a fear so raw, it echoed like thunder in the chests of those listening. The first tale. It was about the old church at the end of Maple Street, where a tortured soul had once whispered letters of lost love, inked in blood. Now, people claimed to hear the soft sobs of its spirit, forever searching for the one they lost. As Sarah walked past the church, an icy chill ran down her spine, a faint sobbing echoing into her ears, tugging at her heart. What could have happened here? But the night was young, and the chilling stories were just beginning. The second confession revolved around the lonely figure who roamed the cemetery at dusk, a woman in white whose moans were laced with despair. Some said she sought forgiveness, her hands reaching for the living to share her pain, a desperate grasp from the beyond that could send anyone running. Sarah felt the urge to bolt, but curiosity hooked her feet to the ground. Yet, the third confession was darker still, resting like a viper coiled to strike. A gang of whispers mentioned a curse, a pact made in desperation that had twisted lives into nightmares. If you listened closely, they said, you could hear the screams of the damned, echoes of regrets that might seep into your own soul. As the wind shifted, Sarah's breath quickened. What were these fates wrapped in shadows? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Sarah gathered her courage and pressed forward through the town's skeletal remains, the secrets seemed to whisper louder. Each burst of laughter from the shadows sent ripples of unease through her skin. What past demons awaited her in the heart of Oak Grove? Would uncovering these midnight confessions spell her doom, or could they lead her to some greater truth? The hunt for answers tugged at her insides as long-buried fears began to claw their way to the surface. What awaited her in this black abyss of secrets? Only time would reveal the depth of the darkness. The ground crunched under Sarah's feet, a reminder that she was all alone in this forsaken town. As she shocked herself back to reality, the thoughts of the history surrounding her began to swell like an unfurling storm. How could she ignore all the tales etched into the very soil she walked upon? With every step toward the old church, the sobbing seemed to rise above the earth, clawing at her consciousness like an icy wind. She glanced back, each shadow a ghostly figure beckoning her to retreat. But she pressed on, driven by an insatiable desire for answers, even as the air thickened with dread. Nearing the church, she noticed something glimmering on the ground, a piece of old paper barely peeking out from under dry leaves. Crouching down, she reached for it, her heart pounding. Could this be the link she was searching for? Unfolding the fragile paper, she discovered it was a letter. The ink had faded, but a few words stood out sharp as knives. Forgive me. Chills crept up her spine as another gust of wind howled around her, as if the very town was whispering warnings. The sobbing sounded louder now, echoing her racing heart in a twisted rhythm. Was someone crying out for help? Or was it a trap in the dead of night? Just then, a flicker of white movement in her peripheral vision sliced through the dark. She turned quickly, eyes scanning the cemetery across the street. There, amongst the shadows of crumbling gravestones, a figure shimmered like moonlight, dressed in a flowing white gown. Fear and fascination battled within her. The woman in white. The next confession beckoned to her with hands outstretched, desperate and haunting. "Come," the voice was gentle yet filled with urgency, vibrating through the silence. Sarah felt herself drawn towards the graveyard, her breath shallow and shaky. "You must listen." A shudder coursed through her. She hesitated, caught between the thrill of discovery and an instinctive impulse to flee. The mournful cry of the woman pierced her heart. What if approaching the figure unleashed some dark secret she wasn't ready to face? But then, as if sensing her turmoil, the spirit's wail escalated. She needed forgiveness. A cold wave washed over Sarah as she stepped forward, feeling the air thicken around her. The tales of Oak Grove blanketed her intangible fear, every legend stretched into reality. Was she about to become part of one of those midnight confessions? As she crossed the threshold into the cemetery, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, a distraction in the heavy atmosphere. Fumbling, she pulled it out and saw her friend Hannah's name flashing across the screen. "Sarah. You need to get out of there. There's something." But before she could read the rest, the phone died, flickering into nothingness, leaving only echoes of Hannah's frantic plea. Panic seized her as she turned to run, but the woman was now standing directly in her path. As Sarah looked into the spirit's hollow eyes, a truth that eclipsed her worst fears began to unfold. Was this woman's sorrow tied to the very heart of Oak Grove? Or was this encounter weaving a new, terrifying destiny for Sarah herself? With a heart racing against the night's hold, she knew she was now entwined in a far darker web of secrets than she had anticipated. The question roared inside her: would she embrace the truth or forever remain haunted by the woman's desperate cry? The air buzzed thick with the unsaid, and as shadows shifted around her, Sarah felt time slipping through her fingers, the clock racing toward an unseen horror that awaited. What would happen if she did go deeper into the night's chilling grasp? Sarah's heart pounded like a war drum in her chest as she stared into the vacant eyes of the woman in white. The energy around them crackled, charged with dread and anticipation. Her body felt frozen, rooted into the ground as the figure drifted closer. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet an unseen force pulled her forward. "Tell me," the woman whispered, her voice like the rustle of dead leaves. "Help me find peace." The words echoed like a haunting melody, steeped in sorrow. Sarah felt her resolve wavering, her own fear overshadowed by this spirit's desperate plea. "Why must I help you?" Sarah's voice trembled, uncertain yet fiercely defiant. Because the ghostly figure pointed toward the church, where the towering structure loomed like a sentinel against the darkening sky. "It begins there. The truth is buried in the ashes of what once was." Sarah's breath hitched. Ashes? Had something terrible happened in that church? The stories she'd heard about Oak Grove replayed in her mind, tales of a vengeful spirit, of dark rituals, of lives lost. Each one washed over her like a tidal wave. She needed to know. Bracing herself, she turned towards the crumbling structure. But the moment she took a step away from the spirit, the air shifted, a sudden chill enveloped her, clawing at her resolve. "Please," the woman urged, sadness deepening her ghostly features. "You can't leave now." Sarah hesitated, a war raging inside her. What if this was a trap? What if stepping into the past would only ensnare her? But leaving felt worse. Was it cowardice that held her back? Or was it the thrill of an unseen adventure? "Why can't you find peace on your own?" she snapped, surprising herself. A tense silence hung between them, thick and heavy. A tear slid down the spectral woman's cheek, glimmering like dew in the pale moonlight. "It's not just my burden. It belongs to all of us." The wind howled, carrying whispers that wrapped around Sarah, pulling her deeper into the night. "You are part of this now." A neurotic shiver raced down Sarah's spine. Through the darkness, she could almost see shadows moving in the corner of her vision, thoughts whispering warnings. Yet, she felt compelled to trust this anguished spirit. Determined, she nodded, her heart a tangled mess of anxiety and adrenaline. "Okay. I'll help you." Just as she finished speaking, the ground beneath her trembled violently, sending a shockwave through the cemetery. The whispering shadows coiled together, a cacophony of voices rising in protest. Sarah stumbled back, her eyes wide with terror. The woman in white began to dissolve into the air, face twisting in anguish. "You must hurry, it's not just on my soul, we need you to uncover the truth before they take you to." "What do you mean? Who?" Panic clawed at Sarah's throat as the figure's essence flickered. Before the spirit could respond, the shadows howled, drowning her voice in a sea of despair. With her chest tightening, Sarah pivoted towards the church, the looming figure growing larger in her mind, overshadowed by her growing fear. Each step felt like a plunge into the unknown. What awaited her inside? What truth lay buried within the walls that had witnessed so much suffering? The wind howled more violently, a warning or a beckoning, she couldn't tell. As Sarah reached the church's entrance, she felt the temperature plummet, icy fingers of dread wrapping around her heart once again. What if this was the moment everything changed? Would this place finally reveal the ghostly secrets she'd been drawn to, or condemn her to the same fate as those who went before? Taking a deep breath, she pushed the heavy door open, the creaking sound echoing like a scream in the silence. The darkness inside was oppressive, an abyss that seemed to swallow her whole. With her spirit wavering and determination intensifying, Sarah stepped into the shadows. What terrifying secrets awaited her in the heart of the church? Would unraveling the truth deliver her from the grip of the past, or ensnare her forever? The moment Sarah crossed the threshold, the weight of darkness slapped her in the face. A chill snaked down her spine, and for an instant, she thought about turning back. But the spirit's plea thrummed in her mind, driving her forward. The air inside the church was stale, thick with the scent of mildew and decay. Dust motes danced like trapped souls in the faint light filtering through the stained glass windows. Shadows loomed large and unfriendly, whispering secrets of a time long past. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat, loud and frantic, echoing through the silence. "Stay calm," she murmured to herself, each word a fragile anchor. But her fingers trembled as they brushed against the rough wooden pews, remnants of prayers long forgotten. The atmosphere grew dense, wrapping around her like a shroud, and each step felt heavier, laden with the weight of unspoken horrors. A flicker of movement caught her eye. She squinted into the darkness, but nothing was there. Just her imagination, she thought, until she heard a soft weeping, echoing from the far end of the church. The sound clawed at her gut, a knot tightening painfully. She had to investigate. The further she walked, the louder the sobbing became, weaving through the quiet like a malevolent spirit. The shadows seemed to writhe and shift, resting heavily on her shoulders. Her breath quickened and the creeping sense of dread swallowed her courage whole, but as she stepped into the deeper shadows, she spotted something on the altar, a flickering candle, the only light in this chamber of doom. As she approached, the air thickened, electric with apprehension. Was this the source of the sorrow? She peered closer and gasped. Scattered across the altar were photographs, faces of the dead, eyes hollow and pleading. They belonged to those whose lives had intersected with the church's dark history. She recognized a few, their stories whispered in the town as cautionary tales of unfortunate souls forever bound to this place. Then she noticed a leather-bound book, worn and ancient, on the edge of the altar. Her fingers brushed against it, sending a jolt through her body as if spirits were awakening within. With a shaky breath, she opened it. The pages were filled with names, dates, and notes, people who once lived and then disappeared, the ink faded yet unmistakably chilling. "Help," a voice whispered, fragile and echoing through her mind. Panic prickled her skin, and she slammed the book shut. "Who's there?" she demanded. In response, the candle flickered violently, and shadows peeled away from the walls like they were alive, constricting around her. That's when she saw her, a figure silhouetted in black, emerging from the shadows. For a moment, the world stopped. The figure stepped forward, revealing a ghastly face twisted in anguish. "You've come to understand," it croaked, voice like gravel. But you must be warned. The truth you seek isn't what it seems. Who are you? Sarah's voice trembled, but she stood her ground. The spectre pointed towards the book, eyes glowing with a predatory hunger. You've disturbed powers beyond your grasp. You cannot walk away now. The past will claim you if you don't complete what they started. An icy blade of terror sliced through her heart. Complete what? The figure leaned closer, breath cold against her skin. Before the last bolt of thunder strikes, you must uncover the light twisted within the darkness, or be consumed by it. In that moment, the lights flickered, revealing the faces from the photographs, twisted in agony. Sarah stumbled back, her breath quickening, the walls closing in as she realized the gravity of what she had stepped into. She had awakened something hateful and ancient. And there was no escape unless she solved the enigma of the church as haunted past. As she turned to run, darkness surged from the corners of the church. They were coming for her, and she had to act fast. But first, she had to know what were the words that could break the curse, and would she have time to say them before the shadows engulfed her? The church trembled around her. And she knew the stakes had never been higher. The shadows were whispering. It was time to confront her fears or surrender to the night. What awaited her in the depths of that cursed history? Could she find the truth in time to save herself, or would she join those who were lost? The shadows lunged at Sarah, flickering like restless flames, and gave her no time to think. Her instincts kicked in, and she bolted towards the door, but a deafening crash echoed through the church, rattling the walls. The heavy wooden door slammed shut with a forceful bang, sealing her fate inside the suffocating darkness. Breathless, she turned around, frantically searching for another way out. The flickering candle on the altar cast elongated shadows that danced like mocking spirits. She could still hear the whispers, urgent, desperate, like 1,000 souls crying for release. "No! You're not taking me!" she shouted, her voice shaking but fierce. Each step backward seemed to draw the shadows closer, a living, sentient darkness hungry for her. In a split second, she made a decision. The book. It had to hold the answers. As the darkness advanced, she dashed back toward the altar, her heart pounding like a restless drum. She grabbed the worn book, clutching it tight as if it held the last vestige of her hope. The spirit, its eyes burning with that strange light, reached out toward her. "You cannot run from what you've awakened. You must face them." "What do you mean, face them?" The words slipped from Sarah's lips, panic morphing her voice into a desperate plea. "Unearth the words. The name of the one who wronged them. Speak the truth." It shrieked, echoing off the cold stone walls. Gathering her courage, Sarah flipped through the pages, skimming the faded names. Each one felt like a stabbing reminder of lives lost. The candlelight flickered again, more violently now, revealing brief flashes of faces beyond the photographs, figures trapped between the veil of life and death. They reached out as if grasping for something just out of reach, sorrow etched on their haunting expressions. Her fingers stopped abruptly on a name, Eliza Ravenswood. The ink was dark, but the date beside it drew her stomach into a twist. Over 100 years ago. Something about it tugged at her, an electrical jolt of recognition. "I have to figure this out," she whispered, and something terrible flickered in the corner of her vision. The shadows elongated, stretching and warping alongside her anxiety. With trembling hands, she repeated the name aloud. Eliza Ravenswood. The air rippled strangely. A hush fell over the room, punctuated only by the flickering candlelight. Then, a growl of wind sliced through the stillness, and suddenly, Sarah was engulfed by tumultuous energy. Then, one by one, faces from the photographs materialized around her, their expressions shifting from torment to a silent plea. "Help us," they whispered as the walls resonated with their cries, merging into a haunting symphony of despair. "What did you do to her?" Sarah shouted into the darkness that began to swirl around her like a cyclone, pulling at her very essence, suffocating her resolve. "You must know. Speak her truth." The figure of the spirit, now almost translucent, glimmered before her, desperate and pleading. Shaking her head, Sarah was almost overwhelmed. But then it clicked. She had heard stories about Eliza, a scandal, betrayal, and a love deep enough to incite madness. She was wronged, wasn't she? Yes. The spirit cried. Her name must be freed. Speak her truth and know the darkness bound here shall loosen. The walls seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. Fear stirred inside her, threatening to drown her. And if I fail? You will join us. The spectral figures twisted in agony, their voices beginning to blend together in a chaotic, chilling crescendo. Clutching the book tightly, it struck her, she had to uncover more. It was time to learn about that betrayal, to understand the full weight of Eliza's story before she spoke further. But before she could turn back to the book, a louder, more insistent voice broke through the din, reverberating through the air. The truth is in the walls, find it, or be lost. Stubborn resolve ignited within her. Lungs on fire, she raced away from the altar, drawn deeper into the church. The shadows clawed at her heels, yet the voices pushed her on. Weaving through her mind, what had she unleashed? Could she really find the truth buried in the haunted depths of this church, or was she merely sealing her own fate? The darkness beckoned, but Sarah knew she had to face it. There was no time left. A thunderous crack of lighting shook the ground, the voices rising with urgency in tandem. Was that the storm heralding doom, or was it her only chance to find Eliza's truth? She paused, just for a moment, her heart in her throat, electrified by fear and purpose. If she didn't uncover what lay hidden, she might not escape the night alive. What other terrors awaited her in the bowels of this cursed place? The storm roared, and the answer loomed ever nearer. The air grew thick around Sarah as she stepped deeper into the shadow-laden corridor. Each step felt like a heavy footfall on the cusp of oblivion, an echo of history yearning to escape. The whispers grew louder, swirling like a chaotic storm just out of sight, drowning out her thoughts. What do you want me to find? She murmured, desperately scanning her dark surroundings. Instinctively, she reached for the walls. Their surface was rough and cold, alive with the energy of those who had come before. She closed her eyes, feeling the rhythm of the past pulse through her fingertips like a heartbeat. Then, beneath her touch, she felt it, a crack, faint at first but widening into a yawning crevice. The shadows seemed to dance around it, pulsating with an almost sentient force. Sarah's heart raced as she pried her fingers deeper into the gap, her breath hitching with each jagged scrape of stone against her skin. Speak, the voices pleaded as if they, too, longed for release. What truth lies hidden within you? She whispered, the words trembling on her tongue. Then, as if responding to her question, the wall trembled violently, and a sudden burst of energy surged through her. Blinding light enveloped her, threatening to swallow her whole. Through the haze, shadows shifted, morphing into forgotten memories, sorrowful glances exchanged between lovers, heated arguments, and muffled cries of desperation. They poured forth as a flood, images flashing before her like haunting specters unable to find peace. In that moment, she glimpsed fragments of Eliza's life, the weight of the betrayal she had endured hanging heavy in the air. As the visions receded, Sarah found herself kneeling before the cracked wall, tears streaming down her face. A surge of anger rose within her, fed by the injustice of it all. How could love become a weapon, and where had compassion fled? There must be something, she gasped, fingertips digging into the stone as if seeking an answer penned in blood. The whispers quieted suddenly, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed against her ears. Time stretched, leaving only the sound of her chaotic heart. In that crushing void, she heard it, a soft, sorrowful melody weaving through the remnants of memory. It was both beautiful and tragic, a lament that reverberated within her soul. Find the song, find her, it gently urged, echoing off the walls. Her eyes shot open, darting around wildly. A song? But how? Focused on the voices in her mind, she recalled an old tale she had dismissed. Eliza's heart had been lured away by a sweet melody, a tune so enchanting that it had beguiled even the hardest of souls. The song, she whispered again, suddenly connecting the dots that felt precariously close to falling apart. With renewed fervor, she scoured the walls, running her hands along the edges, her fingers flitting over grooves and carvings that hinted at something more. Each touch sent shocks of energy coursing through her, drawing her closer to the truth buried within. Then, just as despair threatened to take her, she found a small indentation, a hollow space, like a secret waiting to be uncovered. Dread pooled in her stomach as she braced herself, reaching deeper into the darkness, her heart hammering in her chest. As she pressed inward, her fingers grazed something soft and warm, a locket. Heart racing, she pulled it free, a sense of both dread and anticipation swelling within her. "What are you?" she breathed out, opening the locket with trembling hands, revealing a miniature portrait, a woman, her face twisted with unresolved grief, her dark eyes seeming to plead for understanding. The moment their eyes met, the church erupted in chaos. The walls trembled, shadows darkening, swirling around her like a tempest. "You've awakened her," a low growl rumbled from the storm above. Desperation clawed at Sarah's throat. "Eliza! What do you want?" The answer hung in the air, tantalizingly close, heavy with dread. In this fleeting moment of discovery, Sarah understood she had awakened something ancient and relentless. A gasp escaped her lips as a thunderbolt broke above, illuminating a figure in the distance, a reflection of Eliza herself, eyes darkened by anger and pain. "Release me," the figure hissed, and the church shook violently around her, demanding an answer. Was she ready to bear the weight of Eliza's truth, to face the echoes of a past that could consume her? The storm raged on, and the choice loomed over her like an unyielding shadow. The arrival of a new terror thundered in the pitch-black space. What darkness now awaited Sarah on the precipice of revelation? The shadowy figure loomed closer, each purposeful step echoing in the tumultuous silence. Sarah's stomach twisted into knots as dread pulsed through her veins. That face, so eerily similar to a ghost out of time, called her deeper into its web of anguish. Eliza's presence felt like ice water on her skin, awakening every instinct to run, yet Sarah remained rooted to the spot. "Release me," Eliza whispered again, her voice emerging like jagged glass through the murmur of chaos that surrounded them. The walls throbbed with energy, vibrating in tandem with Sarah's own erratic heartbeat. "Release you?" she echoed, confusion flooding her mind. "How? What does that even mean?" The darkness around Eliza felt almost sentient, reaching out, curling around Sarah like tendrils seeking to drag her in. The melodies of the past still hung heavy in the air, laden with sorrow, heartbreak woven into every note. Something twisted deep within Sarah's core. She felt helpless, caught in a storm of unresolved pain that clung to her spirit. Suddenly, a piercing wail erupted from the shadows, a cacophony of cries mingling with the whispers of the departed. The voices grew frantic, overlapping, a dark choir pleading for resolution. "We are bound to her," they cried out, echoing through the church's stone walls. "What do you mean?" Panic seized her words, flooding her throat. "How can I help her?" Eliza's eyes darkened, the depth of her pain swirling like a tempest. "Only by discovering the truth, can we both be free." The intensity of her gaze bore into Sarah, an unspoken understanding hanging in the air. In that moment, Sarah realized that the locket, the fleeting vestige of love, was not just a relic. It was the key to unraveling the mystery entwined within Eliza's life and her tragic fate. "Tell me what to do," she yelled over the rising tide of the spectral voices. "I will find the song." Determination ignited within her, pushing back against the weight of despair. For a heartbeat, Eliza's fierce countenance softened, and a glimpse of longing flickered in her dark eyes, a mix of hope and desperation. "Find the melody that binds us. The truth hidden within our hearts." Suddenly, the walls agitated with a violent spike of energy, and Sarah stumbled backward, grasping the locket tightly. Her heart thundered, fueling her instincts, urging her to piece together Eliza's buried dreams and betrayals. The air crackled, the temperature plummeting as shadows writhed like angry snakes around her. "Remember the stories," a voice broke through. It was soft yet powerful, cutting through the chaos. The song you seek has been sung through generations, a melody tied to love and loss. As if controlled by an unseen force, her hands opened the locket again. The portrait remained unchanged, the woman's eyes pleading yet fierce. It was then that Sarah realized this was not just a quest for Eliza's release, it was a reflection of her own heart's desires. "Tell me how to find it," Sarah implored, feeling time slip through her fingers like grains of sand. With each word, light began to pulse at the edges of the cracked wall, illuminating hidden carvings that whispered stories untold. "Seek the truth in dark places. Only there will the shadows yield, only there will you uncover the song." Sarah began to move toward the wall, breaths shallow with terror yet laden with resolve. As she pressed her palms against the etched stone, the locket pulsed in tandem, resonating with the rhythm of her heart, and then the whispers crescendoed, the echoes of the past crashing around her like waves. "Find the melody," they roared. "You cannot escape." Sarah's heart pounded painfully in her chest. She couldn't ignore the urgency pressing against her every thought. What revelation could lurk in the hidden depths? Just as she felt the energy surge beneath her fingertips, another boom split the air, and it felt as if the church itself was about to fall apart. Would she uncover the truth or become just another lost whisper trapped within those ancient walls? The melody was calling, yet danger lurked in every shadow. What awaited her on this treacherous path, and would she have the strength to confront it? The shadows swirled like an angry sea, crashing against Sarah's vision. The pulsing light from the wall momentarily blinded her, revealing dark shapes that danced and twisted, mocking her courage. A breath caught in her throat as that wailing grew louder, clawing at her mind, the resonance of pain shaking her to the core. "Find the melody." It screamed again, a command drenched in desperation. With her heart pounding like a war drum, Sarah knew she couldn't turn back now. She stumbled closer to the wall, focusing on the intricate carvings that had come to life in the hazy light. Each line, each curve seemed to pulse with energy, begging for her touch. "Tell me your secrets," she murmured, whispering into the chaos, hoping for a divine response. The world felt alive and trembling around her. Just when she thought she could hear the answers entwined in the fabric of silence, the shadows clashed, a wave of energy smacking her across the chest. She gasped, stumbling as the scene around her warped, images erupted in front of her like sudden flame. Faces drifted, men and women whose sorrow mirrored Eliza's anguish, each one a note in a long-forgotten song. Laughter, heartbreak, betrayal, all woven together into a tapestry more intricate than she could understand. But there, within that grim array, a familiar sight caught her eye: the locket itself, fluttering like a moth to flame, glowing amidst the despair. "Your truth lies hidden in the past," a voice, a soft echo as brittle as ice, slipped into her thoughts. It was neither Eliza nor the haunting chorus surrounding her. This was something ancient, a guardian of the truth that dug deep into her soul. The urgency surged like a tide. Frantically, she reached out, fingertips grazing the carvings again. It was like a fused string vibrating in sync with the pulse of the locket. The air around her shifted, the whispers root deeper, an overwhelming rush of emotion flooding through her. Images morphed into unsettling scenes. A dark forest. A ball of light suspended in the air, and then chaos, screams, desperate hands reaching out before being swallowed by darkness. "No!" she screamed, pulling away, panic clawing at her throat. "Not like that." Then something surged from the wall, wrapping around her wrist, a cold shock that sent a shiver down her spine. It was Eliza's voice, now laced with urgency and a hint of anger. "You must connect the dots. Don't look away." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders. If this was about Eliza, it was also about her, about every choice she made that led her here. The melody, the song they both shared, was rooted in every cracked note of sorrow they were now bound to. "Show me," she gasped, trembling with the deepening dread. The locket pulsed intensely, illuminating the words hidden amongst the fray: love lost, promises broken, silence kept. Each word hurt like a dagger, driving into her heart. Memories flooded back, moments of her own life where she had turned away from the truth, where sacrifice had loomed larger than connection. With a lurch, Sarah realized, was she trying to find Eliza's truth, or was she faced with unveiling her very own? The cacophony exploded around her, voices urging her forward. The shadows shrieked with fury, pressing closer, reminding her that time was running out. Sarah's mind spun. There were stories to unearth, a song to bring to life. Please, I need to understand. She shouted against the rising tide, feeling the darkness float back, as if it too were waiting for her answer. Above the swirling chaos, light began to crack through the clouds of despair, as if the ancient words were true. Then silence. A fragile truce, hanging in the air. She could sense the waiting, the next heartbeat deciding it all. Just as she reached out towards the wall, the very ground beneath her rumbled violently, sending her careening backward. Fear coursed through her as she steadied herself, her heart a wildly beating metronome of anguish. But what truth lay buried in the sound? And who was the guardian she had called forth? The answers hung in the shadows, just out of reach. Would she finally expose the melody, or would the dark forces claim her before she found the way? She bit her lip, torn between the need to know and the horror of discovery. The shadows leaned closer, wrapping around her as if waiting for the inevitable choice, run or face the truth. As coldness crept into her soul once more, she steeled herself for what lay ahead, knowing she was reaching the edge of everything she feared. What if uncovering the song meant sacrificing her own secrets as well? Would she dare confront the truth that could lacerate her heart anew? The jolting tremor beneath her feet echoed in Sarah's ears, slicing through the haunting silence like a sharp blade. Time seemed to freeze, the shadows momentarily pausing as if they too were held captive by the enormity of the moment. The pulsing light radiating from the wall dimmed, retreating into the depths of darkness. The air was charged, thick with unspoken words and unshed tears. "Don't run," said Eliza's voice, clearer now, but still trembling like a fragile leaf in a storm. "You need to face it. Your past, it's the key." A surge of dread pooled in Sarah's stomach. She took a step forward, heart racing, pulsating with the rhythm of uncertainty. Was it truly her past she needed to confront? Wasn't it easier to let it fade away, buried beneath layers of memory? Wincing at the thought, she pressed a hand to the wall, feeling the cold, rough surface under her fingertips. Suddenly, the wall seemed to inhale, absorbing her touch, swirling graffiti morphing into recognizable faces again. This time, they weren't faceless specters. They were people she once knew, friends, family, their expressions painted in shades of sorrow and regret. The cacophony returned, murmurs growing louder, forming a twisted melody of their emotions. Sarah, her mother's voice wafted through the din, distant yet haunting. "You left us. You chose to forget." The accusation struck deep, burning with shame. A tidal wave of memories crashed into her. Moments of laughter cracked by betrayal, smiles cut short by silence, joyful gatherings dulled by unfulfilled expectations. "No. I had to," she shouted against the rising tide of regret. "I was protecting myself. Protecting everyone." A dark figure slipped forth from the shadows, one she recognized all too well. It was herself, young, naive, standing at a crossroad where choices branched into darkness. "You think you protected us?" Her younger self spat, eyes flashing with anger. "You abandoned us to keep your own heart safe." The bitterness wrapped around Sarah, squeezing. Each word dripped with truth, resulting in an ache that reverberated in her chest. The shadows gathered, whispering around her, taunting her with their accusations, each voice combining to remind her of moments she wished she could take back. I wish I could have done better," she pleaded, but the shadows only laughed, echoing back warped versions of her voice. Too late, the ground quaked again, more violently this time. Sarah stumbled, catching herself just in time. "What do you want from me?" she cried, the desperation spilling from her lips, tangled in the murky air. Your truth, Sarah, Eliza's voice broke through once more, urgent yet soft. You must share it. Unravel the past to find the light. As though in response, the locket glimmered fiercely, casting rays of brilliance that pierced the shadows. Her heart raced. Could she truly expose the melody that intertwined their lives? Would it bring healing or further fracturing? Just then, a chilling gust swept through the chamber, snatching at her clothes, pulling her back toward the swirling darkness, where the whispers grew into a furious roar. They demanded her submission, her silence. They were relentless, their collective grief threatened to drag her under. Determined, she took a deep breath, grounding herself. I won't be haunted by the shadows any longer, she declared, forcing her voice above the chaos. If revealing my truth shatters me, then let it be so. I'll face the pain to find peace. The shadows recoiled for a brief moment, and an unexpected calm washed over the space. But then, the ground shook violently as if the very core of the world disagreed with her declaration. Suddenly, silvery chains of light exploded from the locket, enveloping Sarah in a ghostly glow, fighting against the tide of darkness, but what came next twisted her stomach. From the depths of the shadows emerged a figure unfamiliar yet aching with recognition, a face she thought lost forever. In a heartbeat, confusion filled her heart with dread. Sarah, the voice was soft, yet heavy with memories piled like stones. Who was coming from the shadows? What secrets did they carry? What consequences awaited her decision to confront the past? She trembled, the choice hanging by a thread, the shadows still swirling, eager for her answer. Would she unravel the song, or would the darkness strip her of everything she ever knew? The moment stretched, heavy with impending revelation. Sarah felt the air crackle around her as the figure emerged from the dim depths. It was her father, but different, his once vibrant eyes now hollow, filled with unrelenting sorrow. You came back, he said, voice a fragile echo that bore the weight of years. Dad? The word felt like a prayer, a desperate attempt to reach into the memories that had long since turned to ghosts. I thought I lost you, but you did, he replied, sadness lacing his tone. You shut us out. You chose silence over connection, believing it would protect you. The truth sliced through her, sharper than any knife. All those times she turned her back, convinced it was for their own good, now felt like the severing of precious bonds. No! She cried, stepping closer, desperate to grasp the remnants of what once was. I thought I was making the right choices. I thought thoughts can deceive, he interrupted, stepping into the shimmering glow of the locket's light. You've awakened us all, Sarah. You need to confront the choices that haunt you, the pain you've buried beneath the weight of your pride. Eliza's voice echoed again, threading through the tension. Only by unraveling the melody will we find peace. With a wave of dread, Sarah turned back to the wall, feeling the shadows shift restlessly around her. The voices, her family's voices, waited, their unfulfilled love and connection woven into every crease and shadow. I can't lose you all again, she whispered, fear gripping her throat. I need to break free. The shadows echoed her fear, taunting her, shifting and swirling, threatening to consume her whole. But as she looked into her father's hollow eyes, something fierce ignited within her. They were ghosts lingering only because she hadn't faced reality. I need to know who you are, she pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I need to face the truth, my truth. His expression softened, a hint of pride beneath the layers of sorrow. Then you must sing the melody, Sarah. Speak the truth you've buried within. Free the haunted by giving them voice. Sarah thought of Eliza, of love lost and hearts twisted by betrayal. She thought of the pain found in silence, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, unveiling the past could lighten the burden they all carried. Swallowing hard, Sarah stepped forward, grounding herself against the wall, and pressed her palm flush against it. I won't run anymore. She shouted, feeling the energy pulse in response. I release you, Eliza Ravenswood. I release my family. I acknowledge the choices I made. As the words left her lips, the shadows howled, writhing as if they were on fire. In that moment, the glow intensified, illuminating the room in a breathtaking brilliance. From the depths swirled a melody, sweet yet haunting, echoing through the vast chambers of the long-lost church. Sarah felt her heart swell with emotion as familiar voices joined the chorus, harmonizing in a way that felt ancient and powerful. They chanted truths long buried, moments of joy, of pain, of love. Each note became a thread tying together the forgotten. Let us go. Eliza's spirit cried, her voice radiating with urgency. Your song, it's the key to our release. Sarah closed her eyes, allowing the memories to flood her consciousness. She remembered laughter shared, tears shed, connections forged and then lost. You were all so much more than I realized, she murmured, her voice steadying with conviction. You taught me love. It is not to be feared, it is to be embraced. The shadows trembled, twisting around them like a tempest, but the melody surged stronger. An ethereal light burst forth from the locket, wrapping around the spectral figures as they began to dissolve, their anguished expressions softening, a look of relief washing over them. Thank you, came the chorus, sweet and beautiful. Thank you. With a final shimmer, the darkness unraveled, releasing them into a sky alive with stars. As the last remnants of their pain faded, Sarah felt a warmth blossom within her heart, a sense of closure and freedom. She understood now that facing her past had not only freed the lost souls but saved her from the shackles of her own sorrow. When the echoes settled, a profound silence engulfed the church, leaving only Sarah standing amidst the remnants of what once was. Beneath the moonlit sky, she felt infinite possibilities open before her, an uncharted path waiting to be walked. Exhaling deeply, a weight lifted from her chest, replaced by a newfound sense of purpose. This was the moment she would begin anew, bolder, connected, and finally unburdened. As dawn broke over Oak Grove, the town shone with a warmth she hadn't seen in what felt like eternity. The sobs of the church were replaced with birdsong, laughter, and sunlight, marking the end of one haunting tale and the beginning of another. Her own, remembering the spirits she had freed, she whispered into the morning, "Thank you. I won't forget." And finally, she stepped back into the world, heart open to whatever vibrancy and truth the future would hold. Now, here's the deal. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories coming your way. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let others join our amazing community. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Sharing is caring, so instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share, because the stories keep coming, and only true fans understand how vital your support is.